Hashtag Trending would like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers a complete networking stack, wired, wireless, and cellular in one integrated solution that's built for performance and scale. You can find them at meter.com/HTT.
You're going to have to do an intro, but just before you do the intro, I just put the three of us in a 1980s synth pop band.
Ooh.
God.
Okay.
I'm afraid.
Well, be afraid, be very afraid. So you put us where?
In a 1980s synth pop band, like a rock band, a synth rock pop band.
Okay.
I'm just not sure which one of us is which.
Oh, actually, if you take a look at the full-size picture, you can guess. I'm on lead guitar, Jim is on keyboards, and you're on drums.
On drums, that's what I figured.
Oh,
and in fact, I must say that you're looking pretty buff, dude.
I was going to say, I'm liking the muscles that are showing in there. I'm going to have to show that one to my wife.
Yeah, see, this is exactly what I look like. See, okay, so the big news is, in addition to all the other things, a few minutes ago, Nano Banana 2, now known as Nano Banana Pro, just appeared in a whole bunch of different places. So,
oh, wow. So backing up on this and talking about this I figured out how we get Google to release new big monumental software releases, and that's we plan something else for the time when they're going to announce it.
There you go.
Yeah, because we had a whole show. I had a whole show planned for this, and then last night I got this little message that said Google 3.0 is here, or not Google, but Gemini 3.0 is here, and you can try it for free. And we were talking about this earlier about Ultra and whether, because I looked at Ultra, and we'll break this down for you so this makes sense. But the whole thing is, didn't drug dealers used to do this? We'll give you this for free.
Wasn't it the Gillette philosophy as well? It's the razor is free, but the blades will cost you.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of things in the world that are hype. I almost didn't get to sleep last night.
But the one that I sent today
because
was
3.0 came out and I couldn't stop using it.
So
anyways, really is freaking fantastic.
If you get a chance to have a look,
I don't know what your experience has been,
spam, your junk
it blew me away.
And I agree. And the fact is, we make fun of benchmarks here every once in a while, but every benchmark in the world is blown away by this.
But we're all here now.
A graphic which showed how it measures up against a whole bunch of other things, and it's not even close.
Absolutely.
Ultimate.
The top of the list was ChatGPT 5.1 on just about everything, with maybe a tiny lead on Claude 4.5 for coding. But now this thing just blows everything. Like, it's not a tiny jump; it's a big jump across the board. You guys have accused me of being a Google fanboy, but the fact of the matter is, Google is the clear leader in everything right now, and they didn't just release Gemini 3.0.
I'm willing to accept that.
They released like a whole pile of things all wrapped up into it. They inserted it into all their different products. So if you're doing anything with Google, I really Gemini 3 at this point. There's also, they put out their own vibe coding platform, which is called Anti-Gravity, which you say you wasted a bunch of time, Jim. I wasted most of my time on Anti-Gravity, the vibe coding platform that they put out. And then, of course, people were saying, it's nice, you put out all this stuff, and what about Nano Banana? And then just before we sat down to record, they put out Nano Banana 2, and I did half a dozen things with it that basically blew my little mind. It's wild. If Sam Altman is going to follow this up with a 12 days of shipments, he's got to reach pretty high to beat this one, I'll tell you.
You better get working there, Sammy. Yeah.
So, Marcel, I have a question for you. Since you've spent, I think, the most time out of the three of us with any of the Google stuff, one of the things I'd said to Jim this morning was, everything I've tried with Google, I've been really impressed. But the problem with it, and it's not just Google, because OpenAI is the same deal, is that you have to know all of these different URLs or whatever to get into the different tools. So I know that if you go to AI Studio, I think you can at least get some of the variety of tools in there. But is there somewhere where you can go that gives you a link to each and every one of the apps? Like, to me, I don't know why these guys aren't doing this landing zone of go here, one URL, click on this link, takes you to this one, click on this link, it takes you to this other one. Or am I missing
Okay,
something?
so first of all, what you're missing is paying them the $20 a month. That's really what you're missing.
I do pay it.
You do pay it. Okay, so if you go into if you go into Gemini, if you just go to gemini.google.com in a web browser and you make sure you refresh, okay?
Yep.
You should see, first of all, that you have the choice between Gemini Thinking. What are the options here?
Yes.
Gemini Fast and Gemini Thinking with 3 Pro should now be available to you. The create image is now going to be Nano Banana 2, and then you've got the build, which lets you create apps inside the application, basically using Canvas applications. You can also click where it says Tools, and then that Tools drop-down will appear where you've got Deep Research, Create Videos with VO 3.1, Canvas, Guided Learning, Create Images. So the Gemini app is providing you with probably the majority of these things. But yes, there are additional products, which first of all, you're not going to get unless you've got something like Ultra to get any amount. And that would be things like Flow. Yeah, that would be things like Flow, for instance, which is like they're not just video creation, but video editing and storyboarding tool and all that sort of stuff. There are things that are the main reason for the AI Studio is to give you an opportunity to try out the things that are considered experimental at the moment.
Okay.
Not all of them, but definitely experimental. The Nano Banana first showed up in AI Studio, and people first saw hints of Gemini 3 inside AI Studio. So if you want to see where the bleeding edge or what they're experimenting with, that will be the place where you want to pay attention. But yeah, Google, remember, is a monolith. This is, first of all, they basically own 80% of the internet. Play this any way you want. They're the default search engine. They're what everybody tries to appease in terms of making their products appear online. So it's this huge advertising engine. They've got the Chrome browser, which almost everybody every other company builds their browsers on top of Chrome. It's the only surprising thing for me, and I think we mentioned this last week, but the only thing surprising for me is that Google hasn't taken the lead before now. They've been creeping up, but you go back like a couple of years and you think to yourself like, oh my God, you guys are the ones that came up with the transformer architecture that ChatGPT uses, and you got nothing up at like you're trailing behind, but they're not trailing behind now.
I think we have to back up a little bit and talk about all of the things that Google released last night. Because if somebody's listening to this, they're going to be going, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
As I get it, no matter how you stack it, and in usual Google confusion, it's got many different ways. My father's mansion has many houses, or house has many mansions. I don't know what, but nobody. You can wander through this.
Do you want me to go through what it is that you can do and can't do with the standard and the pro and all these other sorts of things?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay. So if you've got a default account, okay. In fact, if you want to use Gemini, you don't actually even have to log in, okay. If you want to use the latest models, namely Thinking with Pro and so forth, you're going to need an account. Now, you don't have to have a paid for account, but you have to log in. Okay, so you're gonna have to log in with a Google account, and it does not have to be a paid one. So that's the first thing, and you can do this actually with the Android app as well, where you hold up your phone and you touch the conversational mode. All of that stuff is available free, and you will have access to that. Gemini 3 understands the world in a way that it didn't used to before. Like you can actually show it videos of things, or let it go look through, and it will analyze the things that you're doing. You could show it. You could upload a video of yourself playing a game, and you can say, "How can I improve my game?" Because it understands the physics of the world in a way that it didn't used to before. But if you go to the $20 thing, the first thing that happens is you're going to have access to the Pro models, Nano Banana 2, and so on. But you're going to have, even though you have access to those in AI Studio, you're going to have higher limits. In other words, there are only so many images that you can generate in a day, or there are only so many research things that you can do with a free account. As soon as you pay that $20 a month, all of a sudden you get to access a whole lot more of these things. Now, the thing about AI Studio is often they just make the stuff available for free. So you don't actually have to have a pro account to be able to do things in AI Studio. But this is the part where it doesn't necessarily remember all the things that you've done. Models come and go from there, so that could be an issue as well. But it is a great place to play. If you go to the Ultra, then you get into much higher levels of things. You go into 3 Pro reasoning, which lets you do, this is the sort of stuff where if you're an actual coder or somebody doing research for a scientific organization or something like that, you're going to want to be able to access tools at that level. But for most of us, Pro is like perfectly fine. And it's going to cover almost all of the use cases that we want to do on a day-to-day basis. To create a program, to write a program, Jim, Canvas or build an AI Studio, but it's Canvas in the Gemini app, will open up a panel on the right-hand side, and then you can give it instructions about what kind of an application you want to build, and it will do that. And by the way, you don't even have to type, right? There's that little microphone icon at the bottom that means you can just say what it is that you want to have happen. So you can actually do hands-off and completely hands-off application development on this thing. And I'm going to let you interrupt here, but I will want to go deeper into application development because I do want to talk about anti-gravity as well, but go for it.
Yeah, I want to talk about that as well. For those who remember the last show that we did, I did this vibe coding thing, and I said I spent like an afternoon or really good amount of time trying to figure out how to do this in Firebase. I managed to build an application. I couldn't make it run. And then I went back and I said, I'll code it from scratch and within a language I didn't know. But within 5 or 6 hours, I had something functioning, ready to promote to Firebase and actually start to run it. It had some issues and things like that I needed to fix. So I went on last night and I just wanted to do enough to open this up because we were preparing. And as I said, the launch for me, anyway, I'm not sure what everybody else, but I got the access to this last night. I went in to this thing, I clicked on build, and I basically, just from memory, at, I don't know, 8 o'clock or 8:30 or something like that, having a glass of wine, I said, I run a technology podcast. I need to generate an application that will help let people submit potential guests. This is actually a big problem for me, keeping track of people who want to be on the podcast. I need to know their basic info, their experience, and what they can bring to the program. I have some very basic ideas that I want to do on that. I gave it the name of the podcasts, and I said they can be found on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And I said, how do I use Gemini to create an application so I can allow people to apply, get their basic information, manage my communication, and keep a record of how well they did? And by the way, it'd be really nice if I could use this to communicate with them. Haha. And then it went away. But it took a while, 25 seconds maybe. It might have been half a minute. And it came back and gave me this application. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this. If you're not, if you're listening to it, it has a very good-looking screen. It has 2 functions where the guest application, producer login, the design is quite elegant. And then I went and looked at it and said, device, it's also got a mobile device built for it. And it has a tablet version. And I went, okay, that's good. It's going to be another one of those things where I get an application that sort of works. No, man, this is a fully functioning application. It has, on its own, gone out and figured out what fields I might need. It put it together. And John and I have experimented with this. You could actually send a link to somebody. They could externally do something on this. And then if I want to get in and take a look at the back end of it as a producer, it has a login for me. And it hasn't got security on it yet, but I'm presuming that's something I can do. And it has a back end where I can see everybody or I can see me. I can see the samples that I did. I can see them one by one, and the data's all there. That's a full functioning application in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Freaking amazing.
To add to that too, when I was in the Gemini chat, in Gemini 3, I did the thinking with 3 Pro, I asked it, can you build an expense calculation chart to help me figure out all of my expenses that I need to cover when I retire? And all I was expecting to get out of that was a list of here's expenses and so forth. I sent it to you, and Jim, I sent it to you earlier this morning. But it actually created, and this is one of the things I was impressed with Gemini versus ChatGPT. If you do this in ChatGPT, it's essentially text-based response that you'll get back. What I actually got back from Gemini last night was an actual application with drop-downs and fields to fill in information in, and it would automatically do calculations. It was quite impressive. It's a very simple application, but it built it all. And the same thing, it came back as it was building it. You could watch it go through the build. It came back saying that it found an error and did I want them to fix it? And you say yes, it goes and fixes it. And boom, Bob's your uncle, you've got an application.
Okay, so so this seems as good a place as any to go the next step and talk about anti-gravity. So you might remember there are some obviously big vibe coding platforms out there. Cursor is the big one for serious coders. And then there's Windsurf, and then there's Bolt and Replit and Lovable and several other ones. And we talked about them. Was it the last show that we talked about vibe coding stuff? Okay. Anyway, so what you may or may not remember is that a few months ago, Google went and bought most of the talent and the intellectual property, so to speak, from Windsurf. Do you remember this? Like I
remember hearing about it.
Yeah, they did. They didn't acquire the company. They acquired some of the people and some of the knowledge. And I don't remember exactly what the deal was on this, but I know that there was a lot of pushback to Google on this. So Google went back and hired all the people that were left behind or gave them contracts or something like that. Somebody can look this up. I'm going off the top of my head here. But the bottom line is they had Windsurf, right? And they used Windsurf as the base to create anti-gravity. And what's fascinating about anti-gravity, among other things, is, first of all, it has all of the fun stuff that you expect from one of these vibe coding applications, one of these big IDE platforms. At its core, it has VS Code as the editor in the background. So it's using this open source Visual Studio type editor, right? And it also has an agent mode that ties into a plugin that you have an extension that you install to the Chrome browser so that it can take over the browser and run the application that you're developing in your browser, and it can go back. And you know how you run something and it doesn't work and you say do this, and you run something and it doesn't work and you say do this, and so forth? In anti-gravity, when you're developing something, if you tell it to use the agent and you are using the Chrome extension, it'll take over the browser and it will try things. And if it doesn't work, it'll fix its own problems. So it is like that next step where it actually does everything, tries, fixes, polishes it, and so forth, because it is able to control your computer. Jim, you're asking a question there.
No, I'm just saying, but is this the same as the build app that I was working? Is this
no?
You're asking it in real language, in natural language, to build something, and it does?
Yes, absolutely. And it's all built into anti-gravity, but it is much more comprehensive in terms of what you can do than what you can do with AI build. And here's the cool thing.
Can you show your screen? And I know we're describing this for people who are listening, but it might be a little easier because, like I said, these are things you really do have to see them to believe them.
Yeah, the visuals are nice for things like this. So let me pull up anti-gravity here. And what's new? Google AI Studio. Share screen. There's the button. Okay. Share screen. And I'm going to say window, and I'm going to say anti-gravity. Okay, here we go. So this is what anti-gravity looks like. And if you have worked with something like Cursor, okay, this is going to look familiar in a lot of ways, or Windsurf or whatever. And here I could say something like, let me put together a description that I had. I decided that I wanted to create an app that would collect news stories for me so that I didn't have to go and take a look at everything. You know how you can have like an RSS I was trying to come up with a news application that would pull up stories for me from a number of sources that I was interested in. What I did was, so there's my description. This is what I was pulling together. And I used, and this is like a really well detailed, these are all the things that I want to have happen, right? You see this?
Yep.
And down here, I have the option of Gemini. What's really interesting about anti-gravity is it will also use other AI models out there. You've got Gemini 3 Pro high, Gemini 3 Pro low, which low is going to be a little bit slower, but it's going to give you larger amounts of time to be able to do stuff. Although at the moment, I'm not sure that there's anything that stops you from going as much as you want if you have a Pro account. Claude Sonnet 4.5, 4.5 thinking, and this is really interesting, GPT OSS 120B, which is the open source version that they make available in here as well. So I find that fascinating. Now, if I say just go ahead and do it, installing update, so it's installing an update as we go here, it'll look at the entire project. And like I said, this is like heavily detailed, long description. So it's going to go through and think about how to create the project, starting the project, go through all these things. This could actually take a while, but the key now is that it can go back into, let me go back into AI Riverside so I can see you guys there. So while it's doing all of this, when you run it, so it's going to go through the whole process as automatically as I want it to do. And as far as the automatically part, let me go back to hide this window here. There we go. Let me go back into anti-gravity. See at the bottom there, it says planning, but it also says fast, where it will basically do everything without planning. The idea is that it comes up with a whole plan and then it says, what do you think? And then you can make the modifications and so forth before you actually start creating stuff. Fast, you just say, look, I trust you, go for it.
And this is much like the development tool I was playing with before. Can you specify which languages it uses?
It's using Node.js. I told it to create a Node.js application.
Okay.
So that it's fast and friendly and secure if run over the internet, basically. The other thing that's interesting about anti-gravity, and I found this incredibly fascinating, is on release day, which was yesterday. By the way, Gemini 3 was the day before yesterday. But yesterday, although not everybody got it until the next day, but anyway, I digress. When anti-gravity was released, they put out packages for Windows, Mac, and Linux at the same time.
Wow.
And yeah. And I actually worked with both the Linux and the Windows package, and they basically look exactly the same. And like I said, there is an extension that you have to load under if you actually want it to run in your browser and take control of your desktop. Then you're going to, when you're asked about it, I shouldn't have given it such an extensive prompt. But anyway, when it asks, it will open up your browser and run the thing graphically, full graphical in your browser. It'll take control. It'll fix errors. It'll run through all of the steps as though it were an actual user using your desktop. It's really fascinating and fun to play with, but it's scary powerful. It's really great.
It's amazing, just the leapfrogging between, I'll pick on ChatGPT or OpenAI and Google, but as I said, I've been quite impressed with OpenAI or ChatGPT anyway, seems to be more just text-based, but the graphical side of the Google world seems to be dramatically better. Like even as I said, with my app and with Jim's app, that it does it in an app style with data entry boxes, buttons, and that type of thing that we don't see yet from OpenAI. And you don't have to get into a building app to do it. Like I said, with the example I did, it was a single prompt within Gemini 3 Pro. So
now I have to talk about the regular Gemini, the chatbot type of app that's there. It's astonishing in terms of the way it interacts with you, the way it proposes things to you, the questions it asks. I think, and the best way I could share this with you guys, and again, you can't see it if you're listening, but I'll try and describe what we've got here. You have to.
You're also in AI Studio under Play.
Yeah, you're in AI Studio there. Yeah.
Is that different? That's different than the chat, right?
In AI Studio, you can tweak how the responses happen. It's not like the default responses from using. I would recommend for most people, and I'll throw this out right now, if you want to play with this, and if you want to feel what it's like in the real world, use the Gemini app. Don't use AI Studio. AI Studio is great for experimenting. It's great for trying things that are bleeding edge, but it's probably not where you want to work on a day-to-day basis, okay? Because you're going to run into these things. Oh, I was doing this or I was doing that, but then you threw a toggle up there which puts you in a different mode than you thought you were in. So this is not where I would work. This is not where I would do my work. AI Showdown. Is that you? Did you do that?
Yeah, no, I did this picture, AI Showdown. I'll actually use that, I think. And that was the other thing I was just totally amazed with. But I'm going to go back to this. Compare Gemini 3.0 versus ChatGPT 5.1. And I'm going to click run and see what it comes up with. And you can see my screen now. This is a lot friendlier looking screen, but I started out in there. So please compare Gemini 3.0 to ChatGPT 5.1. I'm hoping I could replicate this because it was absolutely amazing at how, in AI Studio, you don't have the chipperness. That's a fantastic and timely question. You're so brilliant. But then, and this is what John was talking about, that's a fantastic and timely question as both models have just been released. You are obviously so up on things, Jim. But I love, if you did this in ChatGPT, you would get a pure text. This gives me a table with more capabilities and benchmarks.
Okay.
And it's really quite honest about it too. It doesn't only say that the Gemini 3.0 is the best. It obviously gives itself a pretty good score. Yeah, personalization. ChatGPT 5.1 offers far greater conversational customization. It's really an honest appraisal of the software, at least as best I could see from what's there. But it was also the way it presented the information. And I went through the same thing with everything I was doing. I was creating articles, I was editing things, and it would come back to me with things that I would have to put into and spend a lot of time prompting ChatGPT 5.1 to do. I could take it and say, so for instance, I wanted to check and see what it would be like helping me edit a podcast script. So instead of creating a huge prompt, I actually went on to YouTube and I pulled out a video of one of our podcasts and popped it in and said, that's the style I work in. Help me edit this. It was phenomenal. It started asking questions. It was like having a writing partner. I was just blown away by what it could do and its accuracy so far. Now, does that mean it's never going to hallucinate? My biggest complaint about Google and Gemini up until this point was I thought it hallucinated more than any other AI model. And I'll be testing this out, but I couldn't break it last night. I couldn't find any place where it would create something out of whole cloth. But also the presentation of this, from applications to pictures, and the picture thing, in order to do the podcast, I actually have to produce a picture. And you need a YouTube thumbnail. And I spend more of my time on a daily newscast trying to get the picture right than I do sometimes editing the whole thing for sound, because I've got such great AI editing tools. Last night, I popped a picture of me into there, said, give me a thumbnail that would be perfect for YouTube. Bang. Away it came. And it was done. It was just astonishing.
One of the things that I found when I was playing with Gemini 3 last night is I've played with ChatGPT and other tools when they've come out, and you go, yeah, that's cool. And oh wow, it's neat that you can do that. And when they came out with the camera capability within ChatGPT and so forth, but when I was working with Gemini 3 last night and the AI Studio, although I didn't have the desire to stay up all night because I still have a day job that I had to go to this morning, but it's
so sorry to hear that.
I know it's the cross that we bear, but it certainly made me want to play with it more. And I can tell you tonight when I go home, after what I learned last night, what we've talked about today, I'll be sitting in front of the TV tonight with my laptop playing with Gemini and AI Studio to see what Nano Banana 2 comes out with and some of the other things that I can do. Because, yeah, I was quite impressed with it. It's almost turning me into a Googleite.
Be careful.
Okay, Jim, I'm going to take over the desktop for a second here, okay?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay, so this is another place where if you want to learn about something on whatever topic, and just for fun here, what I said, tell me about the world of Germany during the time of Martin Luther when he was teaching at Wittenberg. Talk about pulling something out of the air, okay? And I said, and help me learn about this with visuals. So let me share my desktop here just so that you can see what it came up with for me. I'm going to say screen, and I'm going to say Google Gemini. There we go. And so let me there we go. So now all of a sudden it gives me an article, but it also shows me pictures from the time, documents, and what it was all about, and things that I can relate to more than just a mountain of text being shown on the screen. And it's doing this on the fly as it goes along. So I said, just for fun, turn all of this into an infographic. And by the way, I did all this while you were talking a couple of minutes ago. So I'm typing this in the background. This is how fast all this is happening. And I get this infographic, the visual battle of the Reformation, Luther's media war. Number 1, the startup town, Wittenberg. And it goes on. And the text is fantastic. If you take a look here, you'll see that all of even the small lowercase text is perfect. You know,
yeah.
The man himself, Martin Luther, German Hercules, brawler, not a saint. And it's really good. And this graphic was generated for me to wrap up this conversation that I asked it to tell me, this little learning thing about Luther in mid-16th century Germany. And it, by the way, and I just picked this out of the air. I wasn't looking for anything specific, or I'm not trying to push a particular agenda, but this is where the whole printing press thing started, the rather violent period. Remember last week I mentioned the idea that we think about the Renaissance as, oh, everything was great, all these wonderful things happened and so on. No, when the printing press came out, do you remember The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Either of you guys? You must have read that, right?
Long time ago.
Okay, there's a line in there about the babblefish, which is this little yellow fish that you stick in your ear that translates any language into any other language, okay? So the joke is that by the babblefish, by effectively removing all barriers to communication, is responsible for more death and destruction and war than anything else in history of the universe or of the Milky Way galaxy. Funny stuff, but in a way that's actually what happened during the Renaissance and the printing press and so forth. The fact that you could get information out to the general public and everybody was able to, this was the social media of the day, right? By doing that, all of a sudden, certain groups could be on the same page. You could send out your pamphlets to different people to push a different ideology or a different message, and that caused more war, death, and destruction than anything else that happened before this. But here's the thing. You notice that Gemini called in its own tool. And in fact, when I go back here, it said, see this? Show thinking with Nano Banana Pro, visualizing Reformation key points, outlining the infographic structure. You can see that Nano Banana 2, or Nano Banana Pro as it is not just an image generation tool or an image manipulation tool, but it is also capable of thinking through what it's about to create, which makes it very different from earlier image generators, whether it's with ChatGPT or the original Nano Banana. That's it? I just shut down the conversation just like that?
No, sorry. There's so much to take in.
One of the biggest complaints I've had about AI is that it'll do what I call the 80 or 90% in a lot of things. You can get up to 80 or 90%, and then that last 10%, which is, it sounds like IT, right? You can build 80% or 90% of the application, but you don't get that last bit that really makes it work. And we've had this chat about this before. Spending a lot of time arguing with a graphics application about how things get made and what they look like. That infographic it produced was perfect. Its text is perfect. It looks good. You could print that as it is. And we talk about infographics, but what about if anybody's ever tried to make a brochure using even Canva and some of the AI stuff, it's just, some days you think, just go back to Adobe and do it yourself. It'll be faster. This is actually might fulfill part of that promise of saying, you need a menu for your restaurant, done. You need a brochure, done. This is starting to get to be some serious stuff. And I don't want to sound all fanboy. We've had a very short time to play with this, but I'm absolutely impressed. The other thing is the way it understands multimedia stuff. And this was a big one. Here's a crazy thing that I do. I love to cook and I love to see stuff on YouTube, and I like to watch these people make stuff. And then some of them give you the recipes and many don't because they want you to buy their cookbook. And maybe I should. But I take the thing, and I actually have an app that breaks down YouTube videos, not only because I'm watching cooking shows, but because I want to take notes and I want to keep track of what people say. And I watch a lot of, like you guys do, I'm sure, I watch a lot of stuff on AI. It's pretty complex, and I want to get the text of it and make notes. So I'll do all that stuff. So last night I grabbed this YouTube video, and I talked about this earlier. I pop it into Gemini, and it not only spits out the whole script for me, or the whole text of this, but then I said, would you mind turning this into a recipe for me? And it did. And I made it for dinner last night. It was just incredible. It organized all of the stuff into a recipe, so straight from a video. But the important thing is I took a video, something that's inaccessible to a lot of people in terms of breaking it down, and it did all that for me.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to recap what you took a YouTube video clip, posted or pasted it into Gemini, and ultimately got a recipe out of that.
Yeah. It'll do a whole analysis of no more looking to see because sometimes videos have the script, the SRT file that gives you.
The closed captioning file. Yeah.
So you can sometimes you peel that out, and if a video has them, then that's great. If a YouTube video has them, you can read those. But many times, like I said, there's lots of things where you watch something and you just want to take some notes or take some pieces out of it. Yeah. And so I just put the video into the chat window, let it run, and it analyzed the whole thing surprisingly quickly.
Now, one of the things that, because this is Google, apparently, and I heard somebody saying this, and I'm just about to try it just to see, but apparently you can pull up a video and it will actually analyze the entire video frame by frame. You remember what it would do is it would give you like a generic, this is what was talked about at this various point and so on. Apparently now it can actually watch the video frame by frame, and it knows that because, of course, the video is sitting over at Google. So what you can do is you can say, at 17 minutes and 2 seconds into the video, tell me what was on the screen and what was happening, and it will actually pull that up. So somebody was talking about this, and I'm just going to try it right now and see how well this works. Oh, this is cool. Oh, sorry.
Do share.
Okay, I'm going to share this one as well. Okay, so before I do the video test, I said, create a one-page graphical menu using as the basis the Weekend Project Synapse Show, part of the hashtag Trending podcast series with options for Marcel, Jim, and John. And I'm going to show, I don't know if I can show this because I can't zoom in on it. It's not letting me zoom in on it because it's showing me the whole image, but I can download it. and I will put it in the Discord where anybody can take a look at it. Because this is mind-blowing, because I have to take a look at it. Oh, you know what? Yes, I know, Jim, you keep telling me that you can just edit these things. And there we go. Okay, so I'm about to share the screen for anybody who wants to take a look at it. The Synapse Lounge and Grill. This is so cool. I love this. So Discord, here we go. This is what I created. Check this out. Synapse Lounge and Grill Weekend Edition. For starters, the trending bites, the generative AI sampler platter, and it created them as though they are menu items, which is what I told it to do. Is this not insane? For Jim, the Anchor's Reliable Club Sandwich. For John, the Full Stack Rib Rack. For Marcel, the Quantum Fusion Curry Bowl. Is this not cool?
Yeah.
Liquid cooling drinks.
Which tool did you use? This wasn't just Gemini.
This is just Gemini. I just told Gemini to do this, and wow. No, the actual prompt was, this is it, okay? Create a one-page graphical menu using as the basis the Weekend Project Synapse show, part of the #trending podcast series, with options for Marcel, Jim, and John. That's what it came up with. Mind blown.
I'm going for the fiber optic fizz.
Woo!
And once again, I talked about putting these in the show notes. If you see stuff here, Marcel posts a lot of the images and even episodes onto our Discord server, and there's usually an invitation to that, or if you're checking out YouTube, it's in the comments. If you're checking us out at technewsday.com or .ca on the podcast, I generally try to put it into the weekend show notes, so you can actually find our Discord or find the invitation to our Discord. But it's one of the places to join if you're interested in keeping up with this stuff, because we post a lot of the pictures that we talk about on the show in there. But just to summarize, and I hope we haven't gotten too confusing on this for anybody out there listening, because this has been a bit of a fire hose for us as well in taking this together. It appears that Google has, with Gemini 3.0, they've got an integrated platform that really does cover text and chat at a level that I think, from the point of view of analysis and opinion and how it relates to you, is probably on edge superior to ChatGPT at this point.
I would completely agree with that.
And so would I.
The pictures,
and the amazing part is,
the pictures and the multimedia that it both creates and can analyze is absolutely freaking out of this world. And in my mind, it crosses that barrier. Not only if you use pictures a lot like I do, and Gemini was always better at, if you take a picture of yourself and you put that into something with OpenAI or anywhere else, it always distorts the person a lot. So far, and don't quote me on this, because one day it's going to say, I can't do pictures of real people, even if it's you. Somebody's going to do that. But until then, you can put pictures of yourself in there and edit them, and they keep that, they look realistic. They look like real people. It designs things. Most of ChatGPT's designs are feeble. I try to use Grok a little even, because it gives me some sort of creativity. The creativity that you saw, I don't know how much you programmed into what you did, Marcel, but that was pretty incredible. That menu that it made.
I read you what I wrote. It's like a simple prompt, and it extrapolated all that based on our previous shows that we've done that are out on the internet. That's how it figured all that stuff out, because it knows what the show is, and it knows who we are as the hosts of this show.
That's the other thing I want. So when you talk about multimedia, it's also that I did the same thing. I got it to prepare and help me edit a script based on the fact that it could go back and look at and watch the show.
Okay,
and the amazing thing too. Sorry,
go ahead.
Just quickly, the amazing thing too is yesterday, or was it yesterday or 2 days ago, they launched Gemini 3.0. Today they launched Nano Banana 2.
Pro.
Pro. But just by the way, this is now available. And I don't want to downgrade or trash talk OpenAI at all, but to me, it almost looks like they've brought out as much or more in those 2 launches than OpenAI did in the 12 days of shipments. Not quite. It was this big thing about 12 days of new innovation from OpenAI, and Google just comes out and goes, oh, by the way, we just threw out Gemini 3 and Nano Banana Pro.
Remember when I said at the beginning that Google is a behemoth? One of the constraints for OpenAI or for pretty much anybody else that's out there is compute. We keep hearing about that compute and power and so on, and the availability of chips.
Yep.
Google uses its own chips. They have their own TPUs. They're not reliant on NVIDIA. So Google owns the entire stack. They own the data centers. They own the data. They own the processors. They own the tech. Like every part of this technological stack, Google already owns and has access to. I want to close up this window that I've got open at the moment, but just as another example, I think the thing that would sum up Gemini, the release of Gemini, including Nano Banana Pro, which arguably is actually part of Gemini 3, so let's be clear, is that it is completely, utterly, fully multimodal. Okay?
Yeah.
It crosses every single area that you could conceivably imagine using an AI for. And the last example that I want to show on the screen share is this one here. I took our podcast from last week. All I did was showed it the link from Google, and I said, and I just randomly out of the air pulled, what happens at 7 minutes and 20 seconds into this video? And here's what it does. It pulls that up and it says, at 7 minutes and 20 seconds, Marcel begins sharing a personal anecdote about dealing with spam calls. He mentions he owns a Google Pixel phones, blah, 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 blah. It listened, it watched the video, it listened to it. So the number of places where Google has their fingers in the multimodal pie on this is mind-boggling, frankly.
Yeah, and like I said, gets into usefulness, things that you could do with in a business, and I'm not trash talking GPT 5.1. I'm just amazed at how advanced 3.0 is from Gemini, and I'm also, it's as if they wanted to answer the question, where you been? Now, bearing in mind, this release has been leaked for at least 4 weeks. We've seen a lot of these things, and there are more things you could do. I want to get into some of the things that I've seen people do on the internet. Gaming, creating a game, not just a snake game, but creating Roblox, like creating things that were really fantastic. So I want to check out and see where we get to with those, and there'll be an explosion of videos on YouTube that will be talking about all the things you can do with it. But
I saw some last night where somebody created Galaga, that old shooting game. They created Galaga with a single prompt, which I thought was quite cool.
I think we all like to talk about this, and it's one of those things that's really cool. People use the idea of a 0 shot, a 1 shot, a 2 shot, blah, blah, blah. Technically speaking, 0 shot would be like the first time, because it's 0, 1, 2, 3. We started 0. Sorry for getting geeky here. But 1 shot for most people basically means I typed a prompt and I got a working application based off of that prompt. And yes, that's exceedingly cool. But the fact that you can continue working through what it is that you want, even if it takes you like a half a dozen times to do something, you can look at that and go, oh my God, it took me like a whole 20 minutes to create this application. I had to direct it 3 whole times to actually get something that I wanted, compared to I've been working on this for the last month and a half, coding by hand, and finally I think I've got a prototype that's going to qualify as a minimum viable product. Or, in my case, I'm not going to do it.
I'll just never get to it.
Yeah, but to me,
I'm not gonna sit down. I've been thinking about this for ages, and I was also almost going to go out and hire a contractor to do it. I have no desire to sit and program this little app that I know I need. And that to me gets down to the thing of where these tools get useful. Like I said, getting video and things that you can actually use, you can picture using them in a business. Analysis that you can picture doing. Don't forget that this is also the company that gave us what I think are very annoying podcasts. Please, I beg you, stop putting Notebook LM podcasts on YouTube. Or YouTube, if you can hear me, please put a switch in there that says I don't have to get Notebook LM podcasts. If you do a Notebook LM podcast, make it like when you used to photocopy your bum. Send it to your friends and leave me out of it. But
did you used to photocopy your bum? Is that what you're telling us?
Only once. But
go back.
But let me finish this.
I think you're finished already, Jim.
But,
I don't know.
But I meant photocopier jokes. I should have.
Oh, okay.
Don't people send you those photo? They used to send you the photocopier jokes. Now they send you memes. Now they're going to send you. They put these podcasts up there. And TikTok. I did a story on this. Actually, TikTok has a new place where you can say, "Send me less AI generated content," and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
But Notebook LM to study something and actually come back to you and give you a summary, absolutely first rate. And if you're doing things like painting something or doing the dishes or even out for a walk, being able to have that type of vocal analysis is really great. I just can't say enough about what, and I don't rave about this stuff. I usually am much more reticent.
Laid back.
But this is not, I wouldn't say laid back. I think I'm insane, but I think reticent about what I would say. I'm going to spend a great bit of time integrating this because I've been doing this idea of the company of one. I have this idea that you should be able to build a company that is run by one person with AI. And I've been tossing that around for weeks and weeks. And I think it's possible with Gemini 3.0. It is, or much more possible. Let's leave it at that.
The one thing I wanted to jump onto a minute ago, Marcel, when you were talking about people with one-shotting output, I actually think that it's more impressive at the fact that the tool can let you 2, 3, 4, 5-shot it without losing it. And what I mean by that is one of the things that I used to find, and I'll pick on ChatGPT, but more so because I use it more frequently, is that I used to find that if I wrote something in chat or had ChatGPT write something for me, and then I'd go back and I'd say, okay, but can you change this? Or can you do it in this sense? The more times you asked it to make changes, the further away from the original ask it was. Yeah. So to me, having a tool, whether it's ChatGPT or whether it's Gemini or Claude or whatever, that has the ability for you to make 4, 5, 6, 7 edits to this while still maintaining the original thought pattern, I guess I'd call it. To me, that's a much bigger deal than it being able
Agreed.
Yeah, it's huge. And by the way, ChatGPT will do that now. You can instruct it to let you to not change the draft and just
I know we're tooting the wonders of Gemini and the things that were released in the last, but let's not throw ChatGPT completely under the bus here because we're talking no matter what, we're talking like amazing technology that we have at our fingertips here. And I thought about this last night. I was talking to my wife about some of and Nano Banana wasn't out yet, so I was talking about some of the things that I was able to do with Gemini 3. And I get all excited about these things, much more so than she does, let's be perfectly honest. But I'm getting all excited about this. And then I said, the biggest hurdle that I personally come up against when I'm trying to see how far I can take this is that my imagination is almost not good enough to create use cases to really push these things beyond the point where I can be excited so much more so than I was last week. Now, we've taken such a leap now that menu, the Project Synapse menu that it came up with, that blew my mind. It honestly did. So it's gone so far beyond that it's almost like at this point it's thinking for me. Because if I had to think about all the things I would have thrown in there, I'm not sure that I could have done, I'm pretty sure I couldn't have done as good a job as it did just creating this thing out of thin air based on everything that the three of us have done in the last year.
Let's take a time machine for a second. We started this show, 15 months ago or so? Go back to when we first started this and compare it to where we're at today. We are light years ahead, regardless of whether it's Gemini, OpenAI, Claude. We've got Perplexity, which quite frankly I use all the time as well. That these are incredible tools that we didn't have available to us 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, in some cases less than that. We've come leaps and bounds from where we used to be. And now we sit there going, that one's a piece of crap because it can't do this. They're all incredible tools.
They are. I agree. Yeah.
And it's just that continued leapfrog that today Gemini has come out with a bunch of stuff that isn't necessarily available in ChatGPT. Give it a week. ChatGPT will come out with stuff that's...
You know what, John? I'm gonna stick my neck out on the line here and say that I think it's going to take a whole hell of a lot more than a week for anybody else to catch up to this.
Yeah,
This has been such a leap. This has been such a leap that I don't even know how long it's going to take or if it's even possible for anybody to catch up to this. Not the Chinese, not ChatGPT, not Claude.
Has just big.
I'll design one with Gemini right now. We can have it by the end of the show, and we'll have voting on it. It'll be web enabled, and we'll be able to distribute.
Why not? Why not?
Perfect.
Why the hell not? Let's do this.
Yeah.
But getting back to this is it. I think in some cases there are differences and different talents that are there. This is still very clunky in its design. It's harder to figure out that it needs to be. It doesn't integrate as well as you think it might. ChatGPT has a much better design piece of it. Claude is, because it does everything so much it's a simple interface. They all have their different nuances now. But Gemini, I think, is Google finding its strength, which is we make crappy interfaces, but we make really good code. I think that's but they've always been able to do fantastic things from an engineering point of view. They gave us a web crawl. They gave us search. They gave us advertising. And their advertising module is so hard to work. You need months of training to do it. But they do all these things, but they're powerful. And that's the thing that you take away from this is that this is worth learning. But now in AI terms, you have to wait. You have to learn. It takes you 20 minutes to learn it instead of 16. But
yeah.
Okay. So I want to throw. I said that was my last time sharing the screen, but I want to throw out one last thing. So you remember I showed you the cartoonish version of the three of us as a rock band?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I said let me see it as. So I'm going to show you the Discord. So I said I want a realistic version of this image. So this is the three of us as a rock band, realistic. See the people in the audience there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And now, do you? But because what I'm going to do now is I animated this thing. I said, all I did was I say, make these three guys rock on. Okay. Are you ready for this?
This is
Are you ready for this? This is Vio inside Gemini.
I like the animated one better because I was more buff in that one.
You like the what? Sorry?
I liked the first one you sent because I was more buff in that one. This one looks more realistic with the beer belly and...
Don't you love the animation? Could you actually hear the music on that video as I was playing it?
I could. It was breaking up a bit for me, but I'm hoping that it will make it to the recording.
I think that, first of all, Google's whole Gemini team and so forth is Demis Hassabis and DeepMind and all
Before
those
Before you sum up, like you just did this thing with this video, we can't walk away from VO. All right. We talked about all these other features. And by the way, there's an incredible video engine that they put into this. And we'll show the example of that how long did that take you to put that together?
What I did was I took a screenshot of the three of us. This is the way that I did it. I took the screenshot. I said, put these three guys. I said, put the first guy on keyboards. That's you. I said, put the guy in the middle, Marcel, on lead guitar. And then I asked to have John put on drums. And that created the first image. And I said, I want it to be an 80s synth band, pop, lots of bright colors. And for some strange reason, it decided to make it an animated, like a comic book or something like this. And I said, no, I want to redo it as realistic. So that whole process to do the image, to capture it took me a few seconds, to do the image a few more seconds. So over the course of a minute and a half, I had those three images done. And then the video itself, I just pasted the last picture, the realistic looking one. And all I said was make these three guys rock on. And I had to wait a grand total of about a minute while it generated the video.
Oh,
it actually says
that long?
This could take between,
that's
it says this could take from 1 to 2 minutes. It took just maybe a little over a minute to generate the video. And we're talking like 15 seconds of video or 10 seconds of video or whatever it is. 10 seconds of video and music. So it's got the music and the sound and the actions and even the pointing out of the audience stuff. And people sitting there with their arms in the air. It's fantastic.
It's amazing.
No, did you remember what your point was after I made you do that summary?
Oh no! The point I was going to make was, you talk about a company of one. Okay, I feel like we're entering a world, and I know this pisses off a lot of people, and I know you pointed out TikTok and highlighting. I need to throw this in there. If you are willing to pay the ridiculous amounts of Ultra, the $150 a month or whatever it is to get Gemini Ultra, the images that you generate and the videos will not have a visible watermark. But, I need to throw that in here as well. I'm sorry. I guess I'm not wrapping up quite as quickly as I thought I was.
I'm going to turn a 15-minute show
But there is
but
it's using, how Google has got what's it called, Synth ID or whatever it is to identify, for music and so on. They have that as an invisible watermark now. So what you can actually do is you can take an image that you found on the internet now. This gets cool. You can upload it to Gemini and say, is this an AI generated image?
Oh, that's cool.
And if it came out, one that has no visible watermark, and if it's something that respects the Synth ID, Gemini is actually able to pick it up out of the image and to say, yes, this was generated by, in this case, Nano Banana 2 or Pro. Sorry, I got to stop calling it 2 because they call it Pro. But we are getting to a place where, regardless of how you feel about this stuff, the creative tools, we talk about coding, we talk about all these things, but the creative tools that let you bring a vision, whatever it happens to be, to life in some way that is accessible to everyone is basically here. And that creative studio, you're talking about a company of one, you can now have a creative studio of one. The person who comes up with the images, the ideas, the script, generates the video, uses a tool like Flow and creates it into an actual feature, a little feature film or something like that. It's not prompt to video exactly, but it is all the tools at your disposal, making it possible for you to do those things, even if you can't draw.
And I didn't know because I was doing the editing, I was listening up and I was saying I didn't know if I stood up enough to my vision of this. Which is, and we've agreed to disagree. You love to create, and I'm just that you're much freer with the creation part of AI than many people are. I think you're probably more advanced in the area of, I use this to create, and I think that there's an engagement, and I think that's a good thing. I still will not touch it for art or music. Just won't. It's just not my thing. But but for using it for editing, for creating functioning pictures, for marketing material, for all of that sort of stuff, I think that's great. And by the way, having fun with it is permitted. I'm a musician.
Don't
I produce
underestimate
music.
fun.
I don't want people creating AI versions of my music and popping them out in the world, or anybody else's for that matter. But if you want to make a little Christmas carol and have some fun with this stuff, or do something, let's lighten up a little bit. Let people who can't draw, and people who can't play piano, have some fun with that. Let's let people's imagination take off. But I'm still, when we get to this point, and I think we're getting closer, I've been saying this for a while, chasing this ephemeral AGI, which is an interesting philosophical point. Love it. We'll do shows on it. But getting to the point where you can now do we ended up getting into cloud not because people said everything has to be in the cloud. I'll back up. We ended up getting packaged software, not because everybody said it has to be packaged software, but because they said, tell me why it shouldn't be. And that was the big breakthrough. It wasn't that you had to buy a package. Tell me why we shouldn't use a package. And cloud went through the same integration. You knew it became mainstream when people could say, tell me why we shouldn't get a SaaS product or a cloud product for this. Yep. Not that I'm not banning you from making an application, but tell me why we shouldn't. And I think we're at that point with AI. If we're not there now, we're on the edge of it, where you can start to say and ask yourself as you go through your day, tell me why I couldn't do that task using AI.
Yep.
And it comes down to, and I go back to my simple example the other day, and I hate doing credit card statements. My handwriting's terrible. My accountant must hate me. And I scanned the stupid thing in once I'd gone down, even with my awful handwriting, I scanned it in, put it into ChatGPT and said, analyze my credit card statement and produce something for my accountant. Boof, it does this. It also not only does that, but it gives me a spreadsheet. And he loves it now, because he doesn't have to read my stupid handwriting or type it into our bookkeeping system. He can just take this and put it in the system.
Yeah.
With Gemini, with no prep, and I did have one credit card statement that had 4 or 5 entries where I'd actually written something down beside them. I put 2 of them in there, asked it to analyze these and prepare something for my accountant. It did it.
By the way, speaking of which, I got your retirement planner, John, and I'm afraid to use it.
But no, so when you get a chance, Marcel, just try it. Because, like I said, that was a one-line prompt that it created. I was expecting a spreadsheet or a list of here's things that you need to look at. But in actual fact, it created an app for me.
Yeah, so yours is impressive, I admit it.
And there's some numbers in there, they're fairly realistic. But take Marcel's software and put it in there as one of the additional costs. Then we'll find out what it takes for Marcel to retire.
Oh, yeah. His monthly software costs.
Yeah. Okay, so before we go away, since we mentioned the 12 days of shipments and stuff like this, I realize it's not Christmas yet, but I have a holiday-themed image for the two of you. Are you okay with this? Are you ready for this?
Absolutely, yeah.
Sure.
Are you ready for this?
Yep. Oh my God. Oh, at least I'm not Santa.
So for the people who are listening, I said take the 3 guys. I said take the guy in the middle. That was me. I said make him Santa sitting on his throne, and make the other 2 guys elves standing at his side.
Yeah, and you've no
Marcel,
idea.
Send us that.
Yeah,
or put it on.
That's going to be our Christmas card. Nice beard, though, Marcel. Nice.
Oh, thank you very much. By the way,
it's about time
fun fact.
Grew one.
Yeah, thanks. I can't grow a beard. I fully admit that. Just fun fact before we do our usual wrap up. But here's the thing: I have actually played Santa before, and I have a Santa suit, but I've lost the hat. But I have the Santa suit, the beard, the whole bit.
But of course you do.
Of course I do. And I've played Santa for kids. I've done it many years ago. I used to do it. So
I did that once when I used to coach hockey. They actually roped me into Santa on skates, giving out candy canes to the kids on the ice.
I played Santa at... No, I'm not going to talk about that. They were awful. They were awful. But I've had the white beard for quite a while, so I've gotten typecast as Santa on a couple of occasions.
Any beard that you ever see me with in a picture is not really mine. Just saying. We'll I cannot grow a beard. Shall we?
Yeah. All right.
Yes, we shall.
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Okay, so that's the end of our show. Once again, we'd like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers full-stack networking infrastructure, wired, wireless, and cellular to leading enterprises. And working with their partners, Meter designs, deploys, and manages everything required to get performant, reliable, and secure connectivity into a space. They design the hardware, the firmware, build the software, manage deployments, and run support. It's a single integrated solution that scales from branch offices, warehouses, and large campuses all the way to data centers. You can book a demo at meter.com/HTT. That's METER.com/HTT.